You want to plan a trip to Europe but are totally intimidated by all the paperwork, the documentation, and the ever-daunting Schengen visa. So what do instead? You just go to your neighborhood bakery and grab a croissant. If that sounds like you, then this video is really going to help you. Hi, I'm Anisha, and today I'm going to talk to you about all the steps that go into applying for a Schengen visa from the US, specifically for Switzerland. I will also be talking about my exact steps, all the documents that I had submitted, and my timeline. And then there's something unexpected that happened with me after I applied, so make sure you stick around until the end to get the dirt. I took a trip to Switzerland with my parents last month, and being a citizen of India, I obviously needed a visa. So let's start by discussing what types of visas there are that are available to us. Did you know that the visitor visa for Switzerland is different from a tourism visa? Yes. So the visitor visa in Switzerland is actually if you're visiting somebody that you know in Switzerland, and then the tourism visa is for independent travel. And then there are visas that define your length of stay. So there are visas available for up to a 90-day stay, and then visas available for a greater than 90-day stay. Both the tourism and the visitor visa fall under the up to 90-day stay category. So that's what we're focusing on today. I applied for the tourism visa, and here are the steps that you'll need to complete your application. But before we jump in, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you never miss these visa or immigration related videos, and to learn how you can travel more using credit card points the right way. Back to the visa application now. So for your step 1, you need to start by understanding the documentation required and by booking your refundable travel. Now this is an important step because you don't want to lose your money even if your visa application is denied. What I did for this is I used my credit card points to book my flights. And the advantage to that is that even if my visa is denied, I'll be able to cancel these bookings for a small fee to redeposit my miles. And there are some airlines that don't even charge you a cancellation fee if you cancel award tickets. For hotels, you're usually able to book fully refundable stays by using the pay at hotel option. For this, you can use websites like Expedia or booking.com that both will have such options available to you. Other documents that you will need to have ahead of your visa application will be your international travel insurance that will cover medical expenses, hospitalization, and repatriation for medical reasons. Then you'll need your bank statements, which is basically a proof of enough funds to make your travel happen. You'll also need notarized immigration documents. So if you have your I-797As, your green cards, and those things, you will need a notarized copy of that. To get the most accurate list of documents, I suggest that you refer to the official website. I will drop its link in the description below. Step 2 will be determining whether you will need an in-person appointment or whether you can mail in your application. After you have completed your refundable bookings, you will need to determine whether you need to be present in person or whether you can mail in your application. The in-person appearance will require you to book an appointment ahead of time, whereas the mail-in application does not have any timing attached to it. The in-person appointment is primarily needed for biometrics. The information about this will typically be present on your relevant Swiss consulate representations page, the link to which I will again drop in the description below. Depending on which US state you are based in, there will be a Swiss consulate representation that you will complete your application with. In my case, this was the Swiss consulate in New York. If you have completed your biometrics for the purposes of Schengen visa in the past 59 months, you will most likely not require an in-person appearance for the Swiss visa. However, if you have not completed your biometrics in the past 59 months, you will need an appointment, and this will be one extra step that needs a little bit extra effort from you. Step number 3 will be filling out your Schengen visa application form. Since you are applying with the Swiss consulate, you will need to pull your application form from the official website of the consulate. Now you may be wondering, if you're going to more than one country in Europe on this trip, how do you determine which consulate to apply with? There are some simple principles that you can follow to make this determination. What most people recommend is that apply with the country where you'll be spending the most time, or apply with the country where you are landing and making your entry into the European region. So let's say that country for you is Switzerland, and let's continue the process. You will begin the application process by filling out this application form and paying the fee, which is $100 as of the filming of this video. I'll also be talking about the effective cost of applying for a Schengen visa from the US. So I hope you'll hang out with me until the end when we'll talk about this. One important thing to note here, and this is a money saver by the way, is that if you're traveling in a group, you can do a group application. However, you will still need to fill out individual application forms. The way this saves you money is actually by mailing in the application together. And that is only applicable if you are exempt from personal appearance. And Switzerland is expensive, so let's try to save that money. The application form itself is pretty straightforward. All you'll need is your booking details to be handy to fill this out, which is a relief because the visa process otherwise can be pretty annoying. Here's a quick look at how this form looks. And like you can see, it's pretty short and simple. The form will also ask you if you've previously had a Schengen visa, so keep those details handy with you as well. Step number 4 is scheduling your appointment or preparing your mail-in application. After submitting your online application and paying the fee, you will get a chance to schedule your appointment. Each applicant in your group will receive a unique link to schedule your appointment. And this will need to be done individually. You cannot schedule one appointment as a group. The unfortunate part, however, is that you are left to your own devices to figure out whether you will need an appointment or you won't. So the only guideline here is that if you have done your biometrics in the past 59 months and you're applying for a Swiss visa, you will most likely not need an appointment. But they do caveat this by saying that if they want to call you in to get additional information, they may do that. One important thing to note here is that this is very specific to Switzerland. So if you're applying with other countries like France and the Netherlands, you have to check their specific rules of visa application before you proceed. The biggest takeaway here is that you need to start your visa application as early as possible to avoid all the unnecessary stress. Because I'm here to tell you that finding appointments even 4 months ahead is not easy. Step number 5 is gathering your documents. Now that you've either scheduled your appointment or made sure that you do not need one, you will need to gather all the documents required to complete your application. This step is the easiest, but it still stinks. And that's because you'll still need to print hundreds of documents to present to the consulate. When collecting your documents, I would err on the side of extra documents than fewer. Let me give you an example. When you are submitting your immigration documents like your I-797As, your green cards, and you're not sure if you maybe need to attach that copy of your H4 EAD or something else, I would still attach it because we are immigrants. This was for mailing in your application. If you have an in-person appointment, bring all the copies and all the originals of all your documents. That's another thing that you can do to avoid unnecessary stress the day of. Also note that the Swiss consulate will ask you to get your passport copy and your immigration documents copy notarized, which is a simple thing. You can just walk into a UPS or any other notary and have them do it for you. You will also need to get a photo taken and attach 2 copies of that to your application. The good news here with Switzerland is that they do accept US passport size photos. So if you have one that you had taken recently, you can just attach those to your application. Okay, one last thing that is not required, but I always like to attach to my Schengen applications is the cover letter. This is a very simple MS Word or Google Doc that can explain your employment, your proof of funds, your itinerary, just to make a good case for you. And like I said before, I always like to err on the side of extra documents than fewer. This will be your best friend. And now for the last step, sending your mail-in application or appearing for the in-person interview. For the in-person appointment, you'll pretty much need to bring all your documents and they will guide you the rest of your way. If you don't require personal appearance, here are the things that you'll need to do to send in your mail-in application. So in the envelope that you send, you will need to enclose all the documents, your application form, your original passports, and the notarized copies of your immigration documents, but you will also need to put a return envelope on there. The return envelope is going to be addressed to you, and the return address on the envelope will also be yours. This is the envelope that the Swiss consulate will use to send you your passports back. You want to make sure that you use a reputable carrier for this, like a UPS or a FedEx, so you can track your application and you know that your important document, your passport, is in the right hands. Always try to get expedited delivery because that will also ensure that you have tracking number and then they are giving priority to your important documents. After this step, just sit back and relax and wait for your application to be approved, hopefully. Alright, so those were all the steps that you'll need to follow to apply for your Swiss visa. Now I'll talk to you about my exact timeline and my application process. I started making my bookings for this trip last year in October, just because I found a great credit card points deal. And if you follow my channel, you know that I follow the deal, not the destination. I know that sounds really early, but that's how early you got to act if you're using your credit card points and booking a great deal. So bookings were made in 2023. After that, I did a quick research to make sure what country's visa I'll need to apply for and what the exact steps for me are, because I already had a Schengen visa from last year when I went to Paris. Of course, it had expired. The earliest you can apply for a Schengen visa ahead of a trip is actually 6 months out. And that is what I recommend you do for your own peace of mind, because finding appointments will never be easy. I applied for the visa and sent my mail-in application towards the end of July, I think July 25th. And the following day on July 26th, I checked the tracking number and the visa application was received by the Swiss consulate in New York. And then something unexpected happened on July 31st. I got an email from the New York Swiss consulate. This is the moment when your entire future Europe trip will flash in front of your eyes. You will think it's jeopardized. You printed all those hundreds of documents for no reason, and all the hundreds of dollars that you spent also went to waste. The email, though, was a harmless one. I did not realize that the Airbnb confirmation that I had attached to my visa application actually had no one's name on it, and that's what they wanted from us. The email said this. So they were basically just looking for the Airbnb confirmation with at least one traveler's name on it. And thankfully, they asked for this document via email and not a paper copy, so I was able to respond to it within an hour. So let this be a learning for you. Whenever you're sending your Airbnb confirmation for visa purposes, you can actually go into Airbnb and get a PDF specifically for visa purposes. If you attach that, that will have your name on it, and you should not attach the email confirmation like I did. So I replied to that email with my updated Airbnb confirmation, and then I had to wait a little longer. You can't really track the status of your application, but what you can track is the status of your return envelope if you did the mail-in application. On August 7th is when I started to notice some movement on the tracking number of my return envelope. It was dispatched on August 6th and it was going to get to me by midday August 7th. Remember, we still don't know if we were getting our passports back with a visa or with a rejection letter. So on August 7, when the packet arrived, I obviously rushed to grab it and open it, and then our visas were approved. And that was that. We were going to the Swiss Alps. 6-month validity with multiple entry, which is nice, but it's really hard to plan 2 trips to Europe in 6 months. Before you leave, let's talk about the effective cost of this visa application. And by the way, it's much higher than the 100 USD that you see on the website. So here's my breakdown for 2 people. The visa fee itself was $200 USD. Then notarizing the documents cost us $30 US. Photographs at CVS cost 46 USD. UPS labels cost 75 USD. And we did not choose overnight delivery, which if we had, this would be almost double of that. The grand total of our costs was 350 USD, which is much higher than the 200 USD that it would have been if we did not have to do all of this document sending. Going to Europe on an Indian passport can be pretty expensive and annoying with the application process, but don't let that deter you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.